Hey guys, so we're going to go over the WHO Health Organization, or the World Health Organization International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health. We're going to do this via online, so you guys can watch this and then come with questions if you guys have questions. And we're going to do like a quick review after our first test on Tuesday. This is just to kind of help us make up for the snow day and all that good stuff. These can be found in chapter 1 of your book, as well as pages 31 and 32. Highly recommend reading that, but we'll get into it. So a little bit of background on the WHO. It was created in 1948 after the formation of the United Nations. In 1945, it's a global health organization set as an imperative goal. Stakeholders include government agencies, NGOs, health partnerships, and the society at large. Their values include trusted to serve public health at all times. So think people's health interests first. Actions and recommendations are independent. Decisions are fair and transparent and timely. Another value is professionals are committed to excellence in health. So this is guided by the best available science, evidence, and technical expertise and innovation. So think best practice or evidence-based practice. Persons of integrity is another value. So think of practice the advice we give to the world, engaged with everyone honestly and in good faith. And then collaborative colleagues and partners. So with collaborative, we're strengthening impact at a country level. We use the power of diversity to achieve more together. And then the people caring about people, which is we're defending everyone's right to health, which is a health equity. We're showing compassion for all human beings and promote sustainable approaches to health. Our main goal is to make people feel safe, respected, empowered, fairly treated, and duly recognized. This is to provide guidance and information on a number of public health issues at an environmental group and individual level. So the WHO influence. So some key definitions of health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely absence of disease or infirmity. Function correlates with purpose and occupation. So motivation to become engaged in life, control one another's actions, desire to interact and connect with others, self-esteem, intrinsic and extrinsic factors like MOHO. Does anyone remember what MOHO was? It was the model of human occupations. Disablement. Disability can present as the impact of disease on function. WHO states that disability encompasses problems with various dimensions of human function, activity, and participation. Risk factors may diminish in health. So the function does not have to be determined or defined by a disease or condition. Disablement, however, disease can also be seen as a factor of function, not a determinant, more of an OT type view. So WHO influence? So it's the medical model versus the social model. So medical model, disability impairments are emphasized. So disability emphasizes person and impairments and attempting to treat impairments, diseases, and deficits, adapting the person to the activity. So think that bottom-up approach. And then the social model as well, which is environment determines participation. So social environment determines ability to participate in occupation, not disabled by disease, but disabled by inadequate environmental. Adaptive environmental limitations to fit the needs of everyone, ADA. So think top down. Then we have the internal classification disease, the ICD-11, reimbursement coding in the US Health Center or system. So this provides codes to classify diseases and signs and symptoms, social circumstances, and external causes of injury and disease. Makes it easier to compare health statistics worldwide. This you as an OTA won't necessarily keep track of, but it's good to be mindful of throughout your practicing. So we have the I.C.F. background and importance. So the World Health Organization framework, intended to serve as common language in healthcare to describe the changes in body functions and structures, what a person can do in a standard environment, so the level of capacity, and what a person can do in their usual environment, the level of performance. Why understand basic I.C.F.? So again, I.C.F. is the International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health. WHO is a framework. I.C.F. is the WHO framework for measuring health and disability at both individual and population levels. So the reason why we want to understand basic I.C.F. is interdisciplinary communication. So we want to focus on that common terminology. Using only OT language across disciplines can be confusing to others. So this is helping everyone in the medical field or this profession communicate with one another more accurately. So it stresses health and function rather than disability. It focuses on contextual factors, including environmental and personal. It's a blend of medical and social models into a biopsychosocial model. So remember that biopsychosocial model. A classification system and remember, this is a classification system, not an assessment tool. It's a reimbursement code as well. Describes health, disability, and function as a continuum. So continuum can experience change in health status and function at any time for many different reasons. AOTA endorses the I.C.F, and there's many parallels from the I.C.F to the OTPF4. So this system provides codes to classify diseases and signs and symptoms, social circumstances, and external causes of injury and disease. It makes it easier to compare health statistics worldwide. So this is a good way of using this to work on health statistics as well. So I.C.F is an OT practitioner. So you have qualifiers and coding. Qualifiers and coding. So qualifiers help to qualify, quote unquote, for services important for insurance and billing. This assists in change in structure. So qualify with change in structure or formation. Also for location. So the limbs and or sides of the body affected. We're looking at the extent or nature of the impairment. We're also looking at the function in its continuum. So that there's two types of qualifiers for this. There's a positive qualifier, which we're looking at function, and there's negative qualifiers, which is looking at disability. Some examples of activity limitations and participation restrictions as well. So think positive qualifiers are the function and negative qualifiers are the disability. Then we're looking at contexts affected by barriers and facilitators. So barriers, think limits individuals' access to factors that support health. So a barrier to health. And then a facilitator would be the opposite. So supports healthy participation. So what type of approach do you think the I.C.F uses? Does it use top down or bottom up? The answer is top down. What we can do to facilitate function in an individual rather than how we can change an individual to fit the function. I.C.F has influence on our theory of biopsychosocial approach. So we're looking at the biopsychosocial approach is holistic, therefore it fits very well with the OT practice as a whole. So we're looking at the person, environment, occupational performance model, which is the PEOP. So basically, if one of these changes, the rest will have to change as well. They cannot be separated. So that's the person, environment, occupation, and performance. Then you have the MOHO, which is the model of human occupation model. This focuses on extrinsic factors, aka the environmental, what impedes or facilitates participation outside of the person, as well as intrinsic factors, which is the person themselves. So what motivates that person themselves? So then we have some I.C.F definitions. So we have health conditions, which include disease, disorders, and injuries. Body functions, which is the psychological function of body systems. Body structures, which is the anatomical part of the body. Impairments, problems in the body function or structure, such as significant deviation or loss. Activity is the execution of a task or action, and activity limitations or difficulties in executing activities. So we're looking at body functions body structures, impairments, and health conditions. So think of your OTPF, and table 9 is the client factors, and then table 2 is the occupations, and then the activity limitations would be table 7, which are the performance skills of the OTPF. So you can kind of see how they correspond with one another. So I.C.F and OTPF kind of go hand in hand. So some more definitions. We have capacity, what an individual can do in an optimum setting with extrinsic factors controlled. Then we have participation is involvement in a life situation. Participation restrictions are problems in involvement in life situations. Then we have the environmental factors that are physical, social, and attitudinal environment in which people live and conduct their lives. These are either barriers or facilitators. So remember back in a couple slides ago of the person's functioning. Then we have personal factors that are particular background of a person's life and living situation and comprise features that are not part of the primary health condition. So we can also look at these as like nature versus nurture. So your nurture is going to be your personal factors, and your nature is going to be the environmental factors. Or sorry, reverse those. Nature is going to be your personal factors, and nurture is going to be the environmental factors. Sorry about that. So it's just another image of how the OTPF and the I.C.F kind of go hand in hand and kind of you can use one another. So then we have the I.C.F through the biopsychological lens. So you have your health condition, disorder, disease, and then you can look into how that affects your body functions and body structures, the activities or the participation, but you can also look at it from the reverse. So how does your participation, activities, body functions, and structures affect your health condition? So the disorder or disease that you may or may not have. And then those will then in effect the personal environmental factors or vice versa. So you can look at this as a top down or a bottom up approach, however you want to look at it. So when we're looking at body functions and body structures, we're looking at what in the OTPF are called client factors. Those are included in the body functions and structures. That should be table 9 on your OTPF. Then we're looking at activities, which are also known as performance skills, which will be found in table 7. Then you have participation, which are the outcomes. So your occupational performance and participation in persons, groups, and populations. That's found on table 6 of your OTPF. Then you have your context or your environmental factors, which is found on table 4 of your OTPF. And then you have client factors, values, beliefs, and spirituality, which are personal factors, which can be found on table 6. So again, you can kind of see the parallel between how important the OTPF is with the I.C.F and vice versa. So here's another example. So again, a connection with OTPF and the I.C.F. So we're looking at the I.C.F calls it participation, and the OTPF we're going to call it the roles. So an example that's given is Mr. Smith, and his participation or his roles is volunteer and husband. And then describing it in the I.C.F language is Mr. Smith has a participation restriction because he cannot fully fulfill his volunteer role. Then OTPF language, occupations, I.C.F language is activities. So some activities that Mr. Smith is doing is grooming and driving. So now we're going to describe it using I.C.F language is that Mr. Smith has an activity limitation because he cannot attend to the left side of his face to shave without help. Then again, we have our client factors and intrinsic factors in the OTPF, which in the I.C.F are known as body structures. So an example would be Mr. Smith is having some issues with his brain structure. So again, describing it using the I.C.F language would be Mr. Smith's brain was damaged as a result of the stroke. This is an impairment of the brain. Then we have client factors and intrinsic factors. So body function specifically. So Mr. Smith is having issues with balance, vision, perception, and fatigue. And in I.C.F language, we would say Mr. Smith has impairments in balance, vision, perception, and endurance. Then again, a context, environmental and personal factors. We're looking, again, these are the same. So environmental and personal factors in I.C.F language. So Mr. Smith, he wants to have independence in home and set up for the bathroom. So in I.C.F language, Mr. Smith's capacity is to get ready on his own. He usually stands to shave based in his home environment. So what I want you guys to do, if you can, is fill out this chart and kind of come up with an example of your own to fill out. So you're going to come up with an OTPF, the roles of your person, and then have an example of what that role is affecting, and then describing it in the I.C.F language. And what we'll do is we'll talk about this after our test on Tuesday for like a little bit of a review. And that's the end of the PowerPoint. So again, if you guys have any questions, please come and bring them on Tuesday. If not, feel free to reach out to me either any day this week before our test. And if I don't see you guys, I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday for documentation. Okay, hope you guys have a good rest of your night.